RBT family, what is the deal? It's your dog Willie Jack, and we are back, baby, back with more NFL action. How's everybody doing? How you feeling? All right, it's football Sunday. All right, it's football Sunday. We got tons and tons and tons of fantastic matchups. Big week for your dog. It's Ravens week, man. So it's a big one for your dog today for sure. But we've got tons of good matchups, man. Tons of divisional matchups, and then tons of matchups that have implicit playoff implications for sure. So this is definitely a big week. This is definitely a big week for sure. Let me see here. Yeah. What's going on? Okay, look at I see a few of y'all early birds in the views already. What's going on? Holla at the three amigos for me. Like, share, subscribe. Drop something in the chat. Say what's up to your dog. Come on now. Let's go. Let me see here. How was everybody's weekend, matter of fact? I ain't gonna lie, it was a good weekend for your dog, man. I enjoyed myself this weekend. Not that I did anything crazy, but I had a good weekend. Hold on here. Then also, while everybody getting in here and getting real comfortable, we got to talk about that Thursday night game as well. We definitely got to talk about that Cowboys-Lions game for sure. I don't necessarily. I had picked Dallas to win the game. I mean, they appeared to be the hotter team. I mean, they really looked like they were hitting their stride and all the good things. It was always going to be tough for sure going on the road to Detroit, which is always going to be, a difficult matchup there. Here. But, yeah, might be able to pull that thing out. And then here's the thing about it as well. They definitely didn't play their best ball, didn't play their cleanest ball. They put up 30 points on the road in Detroit. And so old woes still abound. Defense gave up 44. But anytime offense scores 30 points, man, I'm not going to put it on the offense. It's hard to put on the offense when they score 30 on the road. So when you give up 44, it gets a little tough. Let me see. Hold on. I see a few y'all in the building. What's going on? Ma Duke's in the building. First one in the chat this morning. Good morning, Big Nation family. Happy Sunday. Oh, Lord. Here we go. Chris Jones going to show up and play defense, or you going to take the day off. They need him to. They need him to for sure. They need him to for sure. My dog Tom in the building, man. Said a real one in the building. Appreciate you, big dog. Let's see. Sis up early as well. Good morning to the good peoples. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get it going. And you know what, man? Matter of fact, I was going to say we need to recap this Thursday night game, man. Where J2 Trill at, man? We got to talk about your Cowboys, homeboy. Let's go. Hey, Tom said, in case y'all didn't know, don't forget, Texans to the Super Bowl. Hey, we're going to find out today. For sure. Yeah, man, we got some damn good matchups today for sure. Before we get into all that, man, let's jump into this Thursday night game. Like I said, I picked the Cowboys in this one. It was going to be a test for sure. Like, this was a test. Like, okay, are they really, I don't even know if I want to call them back necessarily, but like, have they found their stride? Are they really in a groove? Are they poised to knock off a prime opponent and, make a real run and threaten that NFC East, right? Because with the head-to-head win and like I said, I think they had won 3 out of the last 4, maybe 3 out of the last 5 now with this loss to Detroit. And so there was, depending on how the season plays out for Philly, nothing's guaranteed. We've seen all the issues they've been having. There was a backdoor chance the Cowboys might sneak up on this division, but the loss in Detroit definitely slows down that momentum. But as far as the game itself, big day for Jahmyr Gibbs and that Detroit Lions team. Goff throws for 300 yards and 1 touchdown. Gibbs has 3 touchdowns rushing, 40 yards, another 77 yards in the air. David Montgomery, 60 yards on the ground as well. And then Jameson Williams, he had 7 for 96 in the air as well. And honestly, there were a couple definitely a couple key or critical turnovers in this one that went against Dallas for sure. And then also, man, a controversial OPI call. Now, here's the thing. All right, quick disclaimer. OPI is probably my favorite call in the league. All right, OPI is 1A and holding is 1B. You know what I mean? Those are my two favorite calls. Offensive pass interference, offensive holding. All right, but I'm a fan of seeing it called. It doesn't get called enough. I'll tell you that right now. OPI definitely does not get called enough. The one last night against Jake Ferguson in the second quarter, and why it's so no, not in the second quarter. That was the third. No, that was the fourth quarter. Oh, it was even more critical because the game's at a point that like we can't have major swings in the life or decision making of the game based on like questionable calls, man. Like it's one thing if it's there because it's a different conversation. And the example I'll make actually is the first Super Bowl matchup with the Eagles and the Chiefs. And so the question was, should the pass interference have been called against James Bradbury when he bit on Juju Smith-Schuster's double move, right? It was a jerk route that turned into a wheel, you know what I mean? And he got grabby, he snagged him, boom. So then the discussion or the discourse at that time was, should the call have been made because of this moment in the game? And my thing was, that was there. He grabbed him. Do I want to see it called? Maybe not. I want to see the game play out. Do I want to see it called? But at the same time, he did it. So it's hard for me to go too hard about should it have been called or not, especially if they've been calling it relatively tight anyway. Then I want it to be consistent for one. Those are the two things with pass interference. I want it consistent, and like it can't be ticky-tacky, man. Let it be there. James Bradbury grabbed Juju Smith-Schuster. He did. I hate that he did it. I hate that they called it, but he did it and they called it. This call last night against Jake Ferguson. Now, mind you, at that point in the game, it's a 10-point game. It's in the fourth quarter, 10-point game. They haven't been firing on all cylinders. At this point in the game, CD Lamb had already went down with a concussion, bumped his head, right? And so it's a 10-point game. Jake Ferguson's in the short red zone. He's damn near right up against the goal line. He's running his route. He swims over, you know what I mean? So he stopped. He's coming back in, whatever it was. I'm going to say, and I don't know if it was it wasn't like a pivot route. I don't know. I'm going to call it some style of out and up, right? From the tight end on Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell's turned into a damn solid linebacker for the Lions as well. So kudos to him. So it's some style of pivot route. He goes out, he swims over, right, to come back in, trying to shed Jack Campbell. And then I don't even. Yeah, no. I was gonna say I don't see what it was. And the good thing about it as well, we've got all the 4K angles, right? And they talked about it in the commentary. There just wasn't a lot there. Like it wasn't like a push off or a shove. It wasn't even that Jordan cross against old boy would maybe put his hand on the hip a little bit as he's coming back. You know what I mean? It wasn't even that. He just swam over. You know what I mean? Like just swam over and got his arm off of him. My dog Tom up early this morning, bro. That was damn good hand fighting. You know what I mean? If he was a pass rusher, he'd have got home for a sack. You know what I mean? Little 1-2, swim over, club, get your arm off of me. Like, bro, where was the call? And so it ends up, there's a flag there. I'm thinking there's going to be DPI. Cowboys are going to have the ball inside the 5. I think this happened at right somewhere around the 5 or the 3 yard line. So I'm thinking, okay, DPI, right? Cowboys going to get the ball, fresh set of downs inside the 5, right? And so theoretically, I mean, you still got to punch it in, but maybe they get a touchdown there. Well, instead, it's OPI on Ferguson, drive stalls. They do get the field goal and make it, 30-37. But just kind of those style of plays that really, and also the reason why that's so critical as well. Now, also, we know this game ended up 44-30, right? And so Detroit goes down and gets another touchdown. So maybe it's all for naught. You know what I mean? And that's where like momentum is subjective because now Detroit is bolstered because now they salvaged that drive. So now they get a bump, right? Because, oh man, hey, damn, that got dicey. We held them to the 3. You know what I mean? we get a little baby bump. The Cowboys in that same moment, they get more dejected, right? Damn. We already on the road. It's already been tough. CD's already gone. And now we got these BS calls going against. And so they lose a little steam. You know what I mean? Now, at the same time, everybody still got to go out there and do your job. Detroit does put another score on the board, right? So I'm not taking away from that. And so in the grand scheme, especially looking at it wholesale, maybe it wasn't as impactful on the overall wins and losses when we look at the final point count. But in the moment, in the flow of the game, if they get that 7 right there instead of 3, right, it's 34-37. Now it's a 3-point game, right? And now also is Detroit as aggressive nursing a 3-point lead as opposed to nursing a full touchdown lead. You know what I mean? Well, no, I take it back. It's Dan Campbell in Detroit, so they was going to stay aggressive. In fairness, they're probably going to stay aggressive. But even still, like I say, it's just a different mindset on both sides. If this is a 3-point game at that point and we just came off the touchdown, we have the momentum, right? Because now we're on the road, we're driving, we score, we cut it to 3 despite everything we've done. So now we're playing on that high as opposed to coming out dejected because we feel like we just got, we just had one go against us that shouldn't have on the road. But no, man, good game still all the way around. And then as far as the Cowboys go, Dak, 376, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Now, both those picks, no, one of them for sure, great play by Amik Robinson. The two most unstoppable routes in football all year long has been JSN anytime he's getting thrown the ball. But outside of that, the next most unstoppable route in football for 2025 has been George Pickens on a slant route. All right? And then in this one, Amik Robinson, of course, it's no secret. We know what's coming. You know what's coming, right? And so Amik Robinson, he plays it well. He stays tough. He gets his hand in there, deflects the ball, and then the one of the backup linebackers for the Lions, he gets the interception. He gets a moderate return, right? But fantastic play right there from Amik Robinson. The other interception, wait a minute. Why am I blanking on that other interception? Because I was going to talk about the Jake fumble as well. Jake Ferguson actually had a rough day. The OPI, I think that was a bad call, and I think most of us who've seen it, most of us can agree that was a bad call. And then even the other turnover he had in this game, the fumble, now that happened earlier in the second quarter, but I hate getting on a guy he's fighting to make a play. He's got 2-3 guys on him, but he didn't do anything egregious. Jack Campbell who got the OPI call, favorable OPI against Ferguson later on in the fourth quarter, but Jake Ferguson's held up. Somebody comes in and gives a good shot right there on the forearm anyway, and then Jack Campbell goes in it up and just punched the ball right out for a big fumble there. I think it was like a 10-7 game right there at that point, right there in the second quarter, if I remember right. And so another big turnover. And so rough day all around for Jake Ferguson, man, with that fumble in the call that went against him. Javonte Williams had a touchdown in this one as well, about 70 yards rushing. CeeDee Lamb had a good day in this one before he goes out with the concussion, 6 for 121. I believe he went out with that concussion. I want to say that was the third quarter. We were midway. It was either toward the second half of the third or was it the top of the fourth? Y'all might have to let me know. But CeeDee Lamb goes out with concussion. It was a pass into the end zone, I believe. He doesn't come down with it, but he does hit his head, smack his head pretty good against the ground, and he has to leave with that concussion. Ryan Flanoy, and shout out to Ryan Flanoy, man. Matter of fact, he's from Missouri. He went to Southeast Missouri State, CMO. So shout out to Mo, man. Shout out to Ryan Flanoy. But he steps up in CeeDee Lamb's stead. He finishes with 9 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. Rough day for George Pickens, honestly. And I would think this is probably his worst game as a Cowboy. Now, he's only been there for 13 weeks, right? And he's been fantastic. He's been the biggest impetus for this team's success and steadiness, right, outside of Dak, because as we know, CeeDee Lamb missed half this season. And that's a good reason. Nobody would have been surprised if the Cowboys just couldn't muster any realistic style of offense without CeeDee Lamb, with George Pickens just getting there, not knowing exactly what you got. The new rebuilt run game they're trying to get going. And so that offense really could have went to the tank. Instead, we saw Dak Prescott probably play some of the best ball that he's ever played. You know what I mean? since like 2016, 2018. No, maybe no, I'll take it back because just 4 years ago now, he was probably the runner-up to the MVP in the MVP race. So maybe I won't go that far. But we've seen him play, I think, his best ball since then, right, for sure. And this is one of the better stretches we've seen, and that's in no small part at all to George Pickens. So I don't think it's unfair to say this is probably his worst performance as a Cowboy, right? Now, also, what was also key or a key thing to pick up in this one is that, and I was talking, shout out to my dog Chop, man. I don't know if he got up this morning, but I was talking to him. George Pickens was the guy who dictated coverage in that game, man. Because CeeDee Lamb had a big day for sure, 6-1-21 before he goes out to concussion. But look at the matchups, right? The matchups tell the story. CeeDee Lamb got busy against DJ Reed. Amik Robinson, the remaining starting corner, he had the early duty on George Pickens. I lied the play I talked about earlier where he gets his hand in and deflects that slant route that had been nigh unstoppable for about 13 weeks. He's the guy that he's covering GP on that slant and causes that deflection that led to interception. CD had the other guy on the other side who's filling in for Terry and Arnold, who went to IR, and so he got to pick on the Robin. You know what I mean? He got the favorable matchup, and he had a big day. And so it speaks to kind of what I was talking about to my dog Chop for sure. And I think I've mentioned on the show where, man, it looks like, GP looks like he's the difference maker in that offense, man. He definitely is. Maybe I'm a little biased. I won't lie. But I think it definitely shows, man. I think it definitely shows. Let's see. Madu said, not good enough, even they have CJS. Who's CJS? CJS. Not good enough, even they have CJS. I'm not sure. Not good enough, even they have CJS. What are we talking about? You lost me. You lost me, lady. You got to come back. I'm not sure who CJS is. Hey, man, Cutting in the building. What's going on? He said the games are rigged nowadays, all the sports betting. I'm not going to lie to you now. Sports betting definitely got a heavy hand. Anytime, especially when something just ultra questionable happens, it definitely does make you wonder. Like, there's definitely times when I'm watching some of these games where, like, somebody pushed the button. Like, it looks like the button got pushed right there. You know what I mean? Like, the button definitely gets pushed from time to time. I'm with you. My dog Tom said Georgia's the top tier number 2. No, because the top tier number 2 is Jalen Waddle. I think George Pickens can be, because Jalen Waddle, like, you can't base. We've seen Jalen Waddle when the offense tried to base itself around him being the guy. And you know what they did? They went and got Tyreek Hill because they needed a guy that could really base the offense around. So I think George Pickens is a level above a guy like a Jalen Waddle for sure. So I think George Pickens is a 1. Now, he's not a finished product at all, but I think he's a 1. He's been in Dallas for 11 weeks, 12 weeks, 13 weeks now. CeeDee Lamb has been in Dallas for 6 years? He's been an all-pro in 2 of those years. He's been a Pro Bowler in 5 of those years. And 13 weeks into George Pickens being here, he's commanding coverage. So that's not a question. George Pickens is commanding coverage on the same field that has CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb has 2 All-Pros and 5 Pro Bowls in his town, on his team. And he's getting the favorable matchup against the number 4 cornerback for Detroit. So now, George Pickens ain't no 2. I think he's a 1. Now, is he a finished product? Is he as refined as he can and will be? He's not. I'm not saying that. He, like I said, it's not complete, right? But I still think he's. I think he's a 1. I think he's a 1. I think he's a 1 because he dictates coverage. Here we go. Come on now. Appreciate you. But now, so here's the thing as well. And so we kind of started talking about the Cowboys and their, race to see if they could backdoor that NFC East from the Eagles. And now, definitely this loss to the Lions definitely does throw a huge impediment in that pursuit for sure, right? But it's not all over because we still got to see these Eagles and how they play out. Now, the Eagles are still a top, 3-4 roster in the league, right? And they're still one of the more overtly talented teams across football. But there's a lot going on. You know what I mean? Chemistry is supposed to show that yeah, it's nice to have the talent, and yeah, you want to have the talent, you got to have it. But just as important to that is chemistry, team chemistry and cohesion, right? Schematics, the offense. It doesn't matter if we've got we've got five all-stars, we can't get any of them the ball. So what good are they? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of issues still going on there in Philly, and so. And then also today, even I think they have the Monday night game, if I'm not mistaken, against the Chargers in LA. Definitely a winnable game, but honestly, just with everything that's going on, I can't say I'd be surprised if maybe they drop a game or two down the stretch that any other time I would expect them fully to win because of the issues that we've been talking about with Philly across the last year and a half to 2 years, right? Chemistry and cohesion issues just within that locker room, in between players and coaches as well, right? And so there's a lot of ancillary things going on in that locker room that are really, and this is the defending champs we're talking about, right? And so there's a lot of things going on that are maybe hampering that team, the Eagles we're talking about, from being at the full form dominant version of themselves that we have been so used to seeing, for sure. But no, that was a good game. That was still a good game. And also it was a huge win for Detroit, because another thing that I hadn't talked about while I was talking about this game is that Detroit also had their back up against the wall, right, for their own playoff livelihood. That NFC North is probably, it may be I think it's probably, the toughest division in football. I think their top three is probably playing better than any other top three across divisional football, because we're talking about the Chicago Bears, who are number one in the NFC. Number one in the NFC, period. Right? And of course, number one in the North also. Then you've got Green Bay, who swept the Lions, who are also still a very solid contender. And then, of course, you've got the Lions. So those top three, I'm trying to think. NFC West has the Rams, and they've got an up and down Niners team. So no, right? And then, of course, the Seahawks. But you know what? Rams, Seahawks, Niners is solid. But I'll still go NFC North with Lions, Packers, and Bears, because I'm not going to I don't know how much faith I realistically could put into Brock Purdy and Mac Jones, going back and forth, starting week over week. So, yeah, I'll go with NFC North. NFC South is a dumpster fire. Maybe not a dumpster fire. That might be too strong, but no, they're not in this conversation. Okay, so then NFC East, and we've already talked about the inconsistencies of Philly, Dallas, and then, of course, Washington and the Giants. So definitely the toughest division in the NFC. I want to see across football, man. NFC North is upside down and turned around. AFC East it's top heavy. Patriots and Bills, they don't go three deep. I don't have much faith in the Dolphins, right? So I'm not going to say they go three deep. The AFC South, they lump up on each other. I don't know if anyone has real aspirations for any of those teams going to the big show. How good do we feel about the Texans long term? They've got a championship defense. That offense has more than a few issues and problems, for sure. The Jaguars, nobody trusts the Jaguars. And then the Colts. The Colts have lost 4 of the last 5. Or is it 3 out of the last 5? Effect as well. And so, yeah, man, that NFC North is, yeah, the NFC North, that's the toughest division in football. And so this was a big win for them as well to keep pace with try to keep pace with those other teams, like I said, namely the Packers and the Bears, who are at the top of that division. So big game. Big games. And then, of course, this week, like I was saying, man, we've got a lot of critical matchups. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and dive right into them. First up, Seattle on the road at Atlanta. Now, this one doesn't necessarily have major playoff implication. Now, it is another NFC opponent for Seattle, so they definitely want to get this win for, all the tiebreakers and implications that'll have, your win-loss record against the other teams in your conference. So it's still a game that they need to and should win, especially if they're going to keep pace and try to get themselves back into that dominant style of just run that they were on before they ran into the Rams and Sam Darnold completely laid an egg. So, but I do have Seattle getting this done on the road against Atlanta. Give me 27-20 Seattle. This next one. Now, this is a good. Well, for one, it's a damn good game. It's a premium matchup, right? It's a premium matchup at the heavyweight division, man. We got Big Josh Allen, MVP Josh, going against Joe Burrow, who made his return, who had announced his return to the lineup with authority. I guess we'll call it upsetting the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore in his first game back. So big win there. As crazy as it sounds, because of how this AFC played out, Cincinnati is still in the playoff mix. Cincinnati is still in the playoff mix for sure. That head-to-head victory against Baltimore was critical. I think they will have. I think they also will. I don't think the Bengals have played the Ravens twice, if I'm not mistaken. If you know in the chat, drop in the chat, let me know. That was just the first of their two matchups, if I'm not mistaken. And so, critical game there. The Bengals already split with my Steelers, and I think they are one game up on the Browns as well. So the Bengals are still in it. The Bengals beat this Buffalo Bills team today, and honestly, all bets are off. I'm gonna tell you right now, all bets are off in this AFC North if the Bengals beat Big Josh and the Buffalo Bills today. I don't have it happening. I'm taking Big Josh and the Bills to get this done. I think this could be a shootout, man. Neither of these defenses are special. Neither of these defenses are impenetrable, impregnable. You know what I mean? And both these defenses can be taken advantage of and run amok. And so I definitely think that this is a game that we can see a lot of points. It is wintertime in Buffalo. I'm not sure what the weather looks like. I don't know if we have any style of weather that may add or change or sway me as far as what I'm thinking could happen between the offenses in this game. But if it's just gonna be cold and nothing crazy, then yeah, I like this to be a shootout in which neither defense can stop anybody, and so it may come down to who's got the ball last. I'll take Big Josh in the Bills at home to outlast a resurgent Joe Burrow and the Bengals team, and I think this should be very entertaining, man. Excited. This was down there going to be the game of the week. It's the thumbnail for today's show because I was thinking it's probably gonna be the game of the week, but at the same sub 500 Bengals team going against a Bills team which is second in their own division, and so I had to temper it down a little bit, but I do think that's gonna be a fantastic game to watch for sure. And honestly, I think the Bengals are more than a live dog in this as well. Like they've got more than a live shot because. Offense for offense, I mean, the Bengals have the more talented offense for sure. The advantage that this is essentially Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase versus Josh Allen and James Cook, right? So those are the heavyweight kind of 2-on-2 matchup there. Now the Bengals, what they have going for them, actually T. Higgins, I think, had been a little beat up. I'm trying to think. As far as correct me if I'm wrong again, I believe T. Higgins is going to be viable in this game as well. That could be the difference. But I still like this one for Buffalo at home. This is the style of game in which we can see that we have come accustomed to seeing Big Josh Allen make those Herculean efforts where he just rises above. Maybe it's a 6-touchdown performance like we saw, a month ago. Maybe he scores 30 points or he leads that offense to score 20, 30 points in the fourth quarter like we saw earlier this year against the Ravens, right? And so I like Josh Allen with the slight edge in this one, but like I said, if Cincinnati wins this game, man, I won't be too surprised at all. I think that's going to be a damn good game to watch. Tennessee at Cleveland. Now, to start the year, right? Now, going into the draft, before the season, going into the draft, it was anticipated that Shedeur and Cam were going 1-2. Cam to Tennessee, Shedeur number 2 to Cleveland. That was by and large the major thought, especially at the start of draft season last year, right? Now, of course, Shedeur lost a lot of steam fast right there at the end of the process, falls to the 5th round, which was still an overcorrection, right? Maybe pick number 2 was a little premium, but a fall to the 5th round was definitely an overcorrection. But this matchup was one that when the schedule makers put this together, it was anticipation that it was going to be a number 1 pick versus number 2 pick matchup. And we've seen the NFL make sure we get these type of matchups when available. We saw Andrew Luck versus RG3, 1 and 2, right? We've seen Jameis Winston, famous Jameis, and Marcus Mariota, right? I want to say year or very early in their career, number one pick versus number one versus number two pick style of matchups. And so there's no reason at all not to anticipate that. Going into this season and the scheduling making process, this was anticipated to be a number one versus number two quarterback style of matchup. It didn't work that way, but honestly, for all intents and purposes, we still got the same matchup, but it just doesn't have that same context as the top two picks in the draft duking it out. That sort of thing, but we still got the matchup. I'm taking Cleveland to get this done at home. That Cleveland defense, fantastic. We already know what's going on with Myles Garrett. He's 4 sacks away from breaking the all-time single-season sack record that's currently held by my dog TJ Watt and Michael Strahan, the OG. And so he's 4 sacks away from breaking that. This game, this matchup against Tennessee, we can see that record fall today, man. We can see that record fall today between J.C. Latham and Dan Moore. Man, look, yeah, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to see it happen. But it very well may, honestly. At the very least, I'd expect him to maybe, if he needs 4 sacks in 4 weeks to break the record, I would expect he at least cuts that in half, right? I would think this is a multiple sack game for sure. And like I said, especially with what Myles Garrett has had 3 or 4 3-sack games this year. I want to say he's had 4. I want to say he's had 4 games in which he's had at least 3 sacks. And I think he's had 2 games in which he's had at least 4. And so this is a game in which he could completely wreck this game almost on his own, essentially. But the difference between between Myles Garrett wrecking the game against Tennessee versus because he essentially wrecked the game against the Niners, is that just Tennessee itself, they're just not a talented team that can't overcome or compensate in the way the Niners did. So this could be a game that Myles Garrett goes out there, breaks the single-season sack record, and wins this game. But I do want to see what Shedeur looks like in this one. I still want to see him have his official coming out party. I want to see him put up some points in this Tennessee defense. I think there's the capability or the ability to score points on this defense is there. I do think that they'll still be very measured in their approach because they're going to just make sure they lock in this win. They shouldn't have to do too much to cure the win. Just a completely more talented team. That defense is going to absolutely dominate Cam Ward in that offense. And then also I think they'll still work that offense behind Quinshon Judkins setting the pace and then letting Shedeur, strike downfield on heavy play action. Let me see. Washington on the road at Minnesota. I'm taking Minnesota. As crazy as it sounds. We just seen Max Brosmer do the unthinkable and look worse than J.J. McCarthy on live television playing quarterback for the Vikings. Just so the old saying, be careful what you wish for, because it can always get a little worse. We didn't think it would. We didn't think it could, but it can always get a little worse, and Max Brosmer reminded us of that. When you get caught in the rain, don't worry, you could get struck by lightning as well. It can always get a little worse, and we saw that last week. Now, I think J.J. McCarthy is back in the lineup. They are at home. Now, Washington is still being led by Marcus Mariota. Mariota had one of his better performances ever. I think it was one of his top 5-ish style performances in last week's overtime loss to the Broncos, which was a heartbreaking loss. They're at home, and yeah, they lose. They go for 2. I love the call to go for 2. Fantastic play by Nick Benito to get the deflection there. Oh man, my dog Chop said, "Is Jaden Daniels back officially starting in this lineup?" See, I thought that Mariota still was gonna start this. Jaden Daniels is confirmed starting. It's confirmed. I don't know why I thought I hadn't checked since earlier in the week, but I saw earlier in the week that it was anticipated Marcus Mariota was still gonna. It was gonna be another week of Mariota. All right. If you're telling me that Jaden Daniels is playing today, then that changes it for me. That does change it for me, Chop. I'm trusting you. I'm trusting my dog, Chop. He says Jaden Daniels is going to get the start today. Jaden Daniels is coming back. I'll give another touchdown to Washington. If Jaden Daniels is in the lineup, I'll call it another touchdown for Washington. I'm trusting you. I'm calling another touchdown for Washington. Change it up. Forget everything I just said. Don't even worry about what I just said. Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders, 27-23. My dog Chop, man, said he's taking Jaden Daniels and those Commanders 27-20. 27-20. I appreciate you. Man, I'm trying to tell you, I believe you. Like I said, because I hadn't checked back since earlier in the week, right? And it was talked that maybe it might be another week of Mariota. Good for Mariota. Now, well, here's the thing about it as well, because what are the Commanders fighting for? Jaden Daniels, before didn't he dislocate his arm? Didn't he dislocate his elbow? But before he had dislocated his elbow, he had already missed 3 or 4, maybe roughly a month of the season. He'd already missed roughly, let's say, 3 out of the first 5 weeks of the season, or 4 out of the first 6 weeks of the season anyway, because I think he had was it a hamstring? I think it was a leg injury, I believe. I don't know if it's a hamstring or a quad. I may be off, but I know he's already been beat up and injured for the bulk of the season from the outset. Then he comes back and then gets hurt in. Dan Quinn catches a lot of flack. It was in that Cowboys game where they was getting their head beat in. He left that game with injury, right? And then I think they were down 14-ish points or something, 2 or 3 scores. So it was already Dan Quinn that came out at that time and said if the game was close, then Jaden Daniels could have played. He said that. He could have came back in and played, or he would have came back in and played. But then Jaden Daniels went back out and missed the next 2 games after Dan Quinn said that, right? And so then when he does come back, we see him fall awkwardly, and I'm pretty sure that's when he fell awkwardly and dislocated his elbow. And so Marcus Mariota came back in and, had this last little that we've just seen. And so, and also Washington, are the Commanders like 5-9? Are they like 4-8, 5-8, somewhere in there? So what are they playing for? Like, I don't know if I want to bring Jaden back from injury, right? And from serious injury. He had a serious injury. It was his 9th throwing arm, if I remember correctly, but still, I don't know if I want to bring him back from serious injury. He's been injured multiple times in this same season, and I want to bring him back on the road against a very dangerous Brian Flores-led Minnesota Vikings defense. Like, I just don't like that game plan. And we've seen coaches make these style of decisions to maybe sit a guy for a more favorable return to the lineup. So we saw earlier, just a couple weeks ago, where the Ravens made the call to go ahead and sit Lamar Jackson one more week, even though it wasn't against. They set Lamar an extra week on a short week against Miami so that he could have the extended break and then make his return that next week at home as well. We also saw Joe Burrow. So Joe Burrow returned this last week, but there was talk that he may have returned 2 weeks ago when the Bengals had that tough loss against, my goodness, was that the Jets, or am I going too far back? But the point I'm making is that we have seen coaches, maybe especially with a franchise caliber quality quarterback and a guy who's definitely the future of the organization. So we've seen where they may sit an additional week to give them a more favorable matchup on their first game back. With Washington's season, because I don't know realistically, I don't see them having a shot. The wild card race on both sides is too thick right now, and that NFC specifically is pretty heavy. The NFC probably goes, I think the NFC goes 7 deep of like legitimate competition. You know what I mean? Legitimate teams. I'm not saying everybody's a Super Bowl contender, but there's some. I think they're legitimately 7-8 deep in the NFC. Washington at 4 or 5 wins to this point of the season. I don't know why we want to necessarily rush them back for this one. Now, I can see also, because with J.J. McCarthy and or Max Brosmer, maybe that's what it is. J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer on the other side, you have to see this as a winnable game for sure. But with Marcus Mariota probably playing as good as I've ever seen him play, right? And last week's loss to the Broncos, I think he's playing some of his best ball that I can recall. And so I think I would think Mariota could still see this through with a poor plan, J.J. McCarthy, etc. If I'm the Commanders, I would have had to feel that way. I don't know, man. I think it's a risky proposition for Jay Daniels, but I'm glad to see he's back, though. Football is better when he's playing, for sure. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a little risky when Dan Quinn, you already made a couple question calls around Jaden and his injuries, dog. Miami on the road against the Jets. Give me Miami 24-20 in this one. The Jets are playing surprisingly well, man, with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. They've got the 2 first-round picks, and so they're not necessarily in a outright tank mode. They're still playing competitive ball. They're still winning games if they get a shot. And so kudos and shout out to Aaron Glenn in that team, man, because they could have just nosedived and went to tank, especially after the trade deadline where you trade the 2 cornerstones of the franchise. Quentin Williams and Sauce Gardner were the cornerstone pieces of that franchise at this point, especially on the defense, of course. Then offensively, you've got Garrett Wilson, but those were the two top dogs on that team. You trade them both away, in the same weekend. And so, like I said, that could have been a good reason or excuse to just go ahead and put it in the dirt, right? Maximize those 2 draft picks that you do have. But instead, they're still going out there. And Aaron Glenn, I imagine, has a big input on this, but they're still going out there seeing what they have because it's going to be a massive overhaul here for the Jets as they rebuild it. And so, yeah, guys are definitely fighting for their jobs right now, and they're still playing competitive football. But I'll give it to Miami on the road, 24-20. My dog Chad said, make sure we watch A.D. Mitchell today. Yeah, hey, shout out to A.D. Mitchell as well, man. And I think that's what really won that really was the key component in that Jets trade to the Jets. Gardner is getting A.D. Mitchell back. A.D. Mitchell his talent wasn't in question. There was some effort concerns, and it didn't always look like he had it turned on. And so, but I still thought he was a guy, bottom of the first style of receiver. He ends up going middle. Yeah, that mid to almost second half of the second round, it came out that there may have been some health concerns as well, but got himself in the doghouse with the Colts, couldn't get out. And so last week in the Jets' victory, he had his first 100-yard game and also his first touchdown of his career as well. So, yeah, kudos and shout out to A.D. Mitchell. New Orleans on the road to Tampa Bay. Give me Tampa Bay 21-17. The Buccaneers are they are getting healthier, right? Bucky Irvin's back into that lineup. Emeka Ibuka and Chris Godwin are back. Mike Evans, I saw that they've opened the window for his return to the team as well. Or no, wait. His window had already been opened. Nah, Mike Evans ain't playing today. I don't believe Mike Evans is playing today. Because I saw somebody post that, because, he had that streak of 1,000-yard seasons. And I think he was up to, like 9 or 10 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, right? I think he's in the conversation. Only him and Jerry Rice have had streaks that long of consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. And so I know he got injured pretty much early, and in the outset of this one, he's missed, I want to say, 80% of the season to this point. So the record, okay, that's what it is. Thank you, Charlie. He said he's out, but he's practicing. Okay, good. Because I was going to say, they opened the window for him to return. And so he's not going to play in this one, but they are getting healthier. They are expecting him to return. And so though that 1,000-yard streak is over, right? But as far as this Buccaneers team, as they go into the playoffs, they're one of the rare instances in which they're actually getting healthier later in the year, as opposed to generally at this time of year, it's a battle of attrition. Everybody's starting to wear down and wear out. You're losing guys instead of getting guys back. And the Buccaneers do have the other part of that, the other side of that, where they're getting healthier at this stretch. Well, and this was crazy. Everybody's getting healthier around Baker going as we get into this final stretch. But Baker now he went from the only guy that was healthy on that offense to now he's the one that's beat up and dealing with injury. And so now everybody else is coming back around him. And so I do have them winning this game, and we'll see how the rest of that season plays out for Tampa Bay, man. See if they go ahead and get into those playoffs, and then see if they do any damage. Indianapolis at Jacksonville. This is a damn good, this is a damn important game. This is one of those games I talked about to start the show where there's massive playoff implications in this one, right? So the Colts started out on fire. They were the AFC records leader for a big part of the first half of the season. Now, the second half stretch of the season, they haven't looked to be the same team. I think after starting, the Colts started what? Were they 7-2? Or no, were they 6-2? I think they were right around 6-2. And then now they've went on, they've lost. Let me see. I want to say the Colts have lost 2 of the last 3. Is that what we're doing here? I think they've lost 2 of the last 3. They lost to Kansas City in overtime. Then they lost to the Texans at home just last week. So they've lost at least 2 of the last 3 because I think they won the game before that. So they've lost 3 of the last 4. So they lost to my Steelers. They won the next week in overtime in Germany against the Falcons. Then they lost to the Chiefs in overtime, and then they lost just last week to the Texans. So they've lost 3 of the last 4 after starting, I want to say 6-2. Now, there's a couple things that have happened, right? For one, teams are loading up and making Daniel Jones beat them, right? So we're gonna do what we can to limit Jonathan Taylor and really force Daniel Jones had to step up in key situations to be the guy to make a play. He hasn't done that to this point. Now, also, Daniel Jones has been a little injured and a little beat up himself also. And so he doesn't have the full mobility that's made him so viable, right? Using his legs and getting out the pocket and then even scrambling and making something out of nothing. So he's beat up himself. And so he's already shown to be limited in certain aspects. And now one of his greatest assets, his own athleticism, which is a little underrated, that's not going for him as well. So it's been tough sledding for the Colts. But flat out, if you've been around here for a while now, you know I flat out don't trust Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm taking the Colts on the road, knowing they've lost 3 or 4, and I'm still taking them to beat Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence in their building. I'm going 27-24. To get this done. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they're also, beat up as well. That receiving room has been decimated. Jacoby Myers traded for it at the deadline here to try to assuage some of the issues that they have in that room. And him and Trevor Lawrence are, starting to build, get something going there. I want to say Jacoby, I don't think he's had 100 yards yet, but I want to say last week he had mid 90, 95, 96 yards or so. So right in there in the mix for a 100-yard game. And so there is some viability that's growing there. But I think this Colts team, I definitely think they're the better team for sure. And they're up against it. Like I said, they're up against it. They've got to, this feels must win for them. And I flat out just don't trust the Jaguars led by Trevor Lawrence. So I'll take the Colts to bounce back and get a much-needed win to stem the tide, at least for another week. And I'll go Colts 27-24 in this one. Here we go. Pittsburgh on the road against Baltimore. It's Ravens week, all right? This is a big one. We're both 6-6. We're tied for the AFC North lead, right, at 6-6. Now, Baltimore does have a tiebreaker over us because I think they have an additional victory over a like opponent. I want to say they've got the tiebreaker over us, but this is the first of 2 matchups because we'll see each other, I think, twice in these next 3 weeks. I hate that the NFL keeps scheduling us like this. But yeah, so we'll see Baltimore twice over the next 3 or maybe 4 weeks. If this is the first of those on the road, this is must win. And honestly, the thing about it, Baltimore's in just the same exact predicament as us, right? And even worse than us. And this is why, and you know what? And it's going to get me on my Pittsburgh soapbox. I can't help it, all right? I can't help myself. But this is why I still can't necessarily get on board with the fire Mike Tomlin train. This is why I still have hesitation because Pittsburgh's in the same situation as Baltimore. Pittsburgh's in the same situation as Kansas City. Pittsburgh's in a better situation than Cincinnati. And Pittsburgh's in a similar situation to the Bills, who just spanked us. And we're still in the same or similar situation as the Bills. Now, what's the outlier of those 4 teams I just named? The 4 teams I just listed. Only one of those teams doesn't have a certified franchise quarterback at the top. So I'm watching Baltimore with the 2 and arguably 3-time MVP in Lamar Jackson. I'm watching them struggle. They got the same record as my Steelers. I'm watching Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, current reigning MVP Josh Allen. I'm watching Sean McDermott and his group, who have a 1 game. They're 7-4 or they're 7-5 compared to my 6-6. And yeah, they just beat us head to head. Well, you should have. You got big Josh Allen, league MVP. Who do I have? Mason Rudolph and Aaron Rodgers taking turns, turning the ball over? Same boat. Patty, the quarterback of his generation. You know what they are? They're 6-6, like my Steelers. You see what I'm saying? And so when I see all the discourse around Fire Tomlin and et cetera, because there's a lot of truth to the things that are being said, but I can't look past the greater context of we're overachieving. We're overachieving still. And the thing about overachieving is that you're just good enough to stay mediocre. And that's where we've been. But it's just not in our DNA to just go ahead and throw it in the tank and go through 2 years of getting top 5 to 10 draft picks and then getting a massive influx of talent because now we're a bottom tier team for a couple years. Like, that's just not how we roll, man. That's just not how we do it. Now, maybe to our own detriment. I'm not saying it's the right decision. It's not saying it's the right decision that we've made. I'm not saying that at all. That's the way it's going. And so when I see Tomlin, who's his contemporaries right now are Andy Reid and the Chiefs, John Harbaugh and the Ravens. John Harbaugh's been criminally overrated for a long time, in my opinion, anyway. But he's got an MVP, multiple MVP winner in Lamar Chase at quarterback. He's got a Hall of Famer in Derrick Henry at running back. I don't want to hear it. Joe Burrow. We know who and what Joe Burrow is. He's a guy consistently in conversation for the best at the position in the league, right? We're in the same boat as him. And Josh Allen. So I don't want to hear it, man. I don't want to hear it. I understand it, but I'm not ready to bite the bullet. I'm not ready to pull that trigger because I see where we are. As bad as things are in Pittsburgh, as ugly as our outlook is, we got the exact same outlook and exact same circumstances as the multiple-time MVP and what was thought to be a Super Bowl contender in Buffalo. They're in the same boat with us right now, tied at 6-6 in this game to decide the lead in division. So that's the underlying context that I have to take into account when I think about, Coach Tomlin, if it's time to move on or not. I can't get past that context. Now, all that said, you know what I'm doing? Give me the good guys, man. Come on, man. Big Steeler Nation, man. Give me the good guys, man. It's still Big Nation business in the building. Give me my Steelers on the road in Baltimore, 23-21. Now, I can't tell you. Look here, man. Look here. I'm not even gonna get into it. We're gonna do what we gotta do today, man. We're gonna do what we gotta do today. We gotta do what we gotta do today. 23-21. And yeah, I'm gonna move on. All right, that's all I got. That's all I got, Pittsburgh. I need this one. Come home, man. Bring it home for me. Denver on the road at the Raiders. Give me Denver 30-20 in this one. Denver and you know what? Denver, the number 1 seed in the no. They're a game behind the Patriots. I think the Patriots are 10-2. Or the Patriots 10-2 or 11-2. And I think the Broncos are I think the Patriots may be 11-2, and maybe the Broncos are 10-2, right? So I think those are the top 2 seeds, if I'm not mistaken. But be that as it may, I definitely don't expect them to get hamstrung by the Raiders today, the struggling Raiders. I expect them to get this done 30-20. Now, next up is this week's game of the week. I'm going Chicago at Green Bay. So Chicago, surprise, surprise. I don't know who could have imagined seeing this happen. Chicago, currently the number 1 seed in the NFC, takes on division opponent Green Bay in Green Bay, right? In a critical matchup. Now, Green Bay, I believe, is the 5 seed in the NFC as things currently stand because their division rival their division rival has the lead, so they're the 5 seed. But this is a big one. And honestly, I want to say, because Chicago's 9-2? 9-2, 10-2. And I want to say the Packers are, I think are they 7-3-1, 8-3-1, something to that effect. And so this is a massive game. Green Bay. Hold on, man. That math ain't mathing. 7-3-1 is 11 games, but this is week 14. So even with a bye week, it should at the 13. Okay, so maybe the Packers, have they won 9 games though? I'm not sure. I'm at the man. What's the Packers record, Chop? If you know, cause I know they had that draw with Cleveland. No, I'm lying. Cleveland came back and won that game. They had that draw against the Cowboys when Micah made his return to Dallas. That was their draw. Are they 8? I want to say they're 8-3-1, but that I'm missing a week, so maybe they're 9-3-1. Be that as it may, they're I think a game and a half back of the Bears for that lead division. Bears got 9 wins, the Packers got 8. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's what I was trying to do the math. This is week 14, and so I was trying to make it make sense. But no, so the Bears are. I thought the Bears are only 9-2, but they may be 9-3. So if the Bears are 9-3, the Packers are 8-3-1, and so yeah. They're essentially a half game back because of the tie. They're a half game back from the Bears. And so, yeah, this is for the lead in that division. And then the Lions just got their win Thursday night against Dallas to try to keep pace or try to, keep themselves in striking distance. Maybe. I don't know if they'll catch either one of these teams. But I think this is going to be a tough matchup. The Bears are playing fantastic, man, especially offensively. Ben Johnson has shown his worth. And you know what, Chop? Is Ben Johnson coach of the year? Is Ben Johnson the coach of the year this year so far? I mean, I don't know. I think he's, and I'm just thinking about it now. I haven't put much thought into it, but I think arguably Ben Johnson is going to be the coach of the year this year. Just the way we've seen him turn around this Chicago Bears team immediately, right? The corrections that we wanted to call Caleb Williams a bust last year after last season. People were already ready to turn it in on Caleb Williams. And now we see that Ben Johnson is week over week working with Caleb and getting him to hone in and harness in the talent and abilities that made him the likely number 1 pick for his last 2 years in college before he finally came out. And so the talent was never in question. But since Chicago, there's a lot of people in Chicago that were already ready to pull the plug and call it a bust and move on out of there. Ben Johnson gets there, and now they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. Oh, yeah, Ben Johnson and Vrabel. Ben Johnson and Vrabel. Ooh. Y'all know I love me some Drizzy May. I was late to the party. I'm not as late as some of y'all. I'm still here. I was respectably late to the party. I'll say that on Drizzy May. Vrabel and Ben Johnson. You know what, Chop? I'll go Ben Johnson because Ben Johnson's had the tougher road. The Patriots are playing well, but they did have one of the softer schedules in the league. Now, I talked about it with my dog Tom earlier, if he's still in here as well. So I'll give that context. Now, also, the Patriots, they had that soft schedule because they were terrible last year. And so I don't mean it to say that they're taking advantage because there's been years I remember just a few years ago where Baltimore, for some reason, ended up having like a bottom 4 strength of schedule for across the league, and they were still, the rolling Ravens. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes it falls funny like that. The Patriots should have had a weak schedule because they were a weak team. And so the evolution of Drake May, the astronomical jump that he made in his own game, and then combined with Vrabel getting in there and putting the foundation there in place for them to be successful. So I do feel that as well, but I think Ben Johnson's had heavier lifting. Playing in that NFC North, just like I was saying, the toughest division in football, and not only keeping pace, but leading that division. Leading that division for sure. And so, yeah, I'll probably give the nose to Ben Johnson, at least at this juncture. Right, because we still got another month of football, and I'm not opposed to Vrabel either, though. I'm really not. I'm not opposed to Vrabel. Between the two, I think I give the edge to Chicago because they're playing in that NFC North, which is pretty rough, pretty brutal. That's the best division in football so far this year. So I'll give that edge to Ben Johnson. But I am taking Green Bay in to win today. My dog Chop said he's taking Green Bay as well. He's got Green Bay 31-24. Matter of fact, let me put that on the board so I ain't got to strain my eyes. That ain't the one I wanted. This is the one I wanted right here. He's got Green Bay taking advantage of the Bears' weekly mistakes, 31-24. Okay, and you know what? And that's fair as well. It hasn't all been pretty. And the thing about, and I'm with you, because the Bears, as crazy as it sounds, my Steelers were in position to beat these Bears with Mason Rudolph. You know what I mean? So it's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched at all. But I'll take Green Bay, man. Especially, y'all know I love me some Jordan Love. I'm not a big Matt LaFleur fan. You know what I'm saying? My dog Chop is a bigger fan of LaFleur than myself. I'm not a big LaFleur fan, but I am a fan of Jordan Love. He's playing fantastic football. When Matt LaFleur isn't tricking off play call and scheme, right? Then Jordan Love, man, when he's in his groove, I'm telling you, man, he's one of those guys that really, he can really turn it on and turn up, and he can go out there and drop 30 with the best of them when things are rolling well. And he's looking pretty good here these last few weeks for sure. Really, really playing good ball, and they are at home. This is a critical matchup. I'm taking Green Bay as well. I also think that I want to see Micah in this one. The Bears last week were playing with a backup left tackle. This week, I'm not sure who's going to be starting at the left tackle either way, but I still like that matchup of Green Bay's pass rush, Michael Parsons and Rashawn Gary, right? I still like them against the Bears offensive line. Now, Darnell Wright at right tackle, when he came in for Tennessee, I was a big proponent or fan of his for sure. But that left side is still a little up, in that left tackle spot specifically may still be a little inconsistent, especially with the left tackle who was there being a little injured. So even if he's coming back, this is still a rough week to come back when you've got Micah and Rashawn Gary across from you. But I like, just like my dog Chop said, man, I think Green Bay takes advantage, and I think they get this done. I think it's going to be a damn good game to watch too. 27-24. My dog Chops Rams on the road at Arizona. Look for the Rams to get a victory after dropping the ball last week in Carolina. I got the Rams 30-24. And here's the thing about these Cardinals, man. They haven't won a lot of games, but since Jacoby Brissett's been back, they have been scoring points. They have been moving the ball. They haven't, like I said, it hasn't necessarily impacted the win-loss column, but this team far and away has looked better and more competitive and more competent, especially offensively, with Jacoby Brissett behind center as opposed to how they were looking with Kyler Murray. Now, be that as it may, taking the Rams, like I said, bounce back loss. They are on the road. They got a bad taste in their mouth for letting one get away from them last week in Carolina. Matt Stafford, the streak had to end at some point. I think he had went 10 games or so without throwing an interception. And then also, I think within that, I think he had thrown 25 touchdowns to no interceptions over that span. And I think the record he either tied or broke belonged to Tom Brady, who went on that style of run. I want to say, was that even with the Patriots, or was that in Tampa? But either way, that streak or record came to a screeching halt. He threw the pick six. He threw a bad interception in the end zone. That was just a terrible. I don't know what he was going on there. It was just a gimme ball in the short red zone, the interception in the end zone, and then that next one he's laid outside, and it's a pick six all the way to the crib. So throws two after not throwing any for about 2 months. But be that as it may, I definitely expect them to bounce back and get a division win. Cardinals, I'm going 30-24. Let me see. Sunday Night Football. This is another one, man. This is a big one. Houston on the road at Kansas City. I'm going Chiefs. 21-17, but this is I could have went either way on this game as well, especially when you've got a defense as talented and as aggressive as that DeMeco Ryans Houston Texans defense is, especially with an offense in Kansas City that flat out just is not dynamic. It's not a dynamic offense, right? It's a competent offense, but they're not dynamic. And so, a team like the Texans, like this is a very favorable matchup for them, for that Texans defense. That defensive line, Kansas City, and that offensive line, they've had their woes there all year. Josh Simmons, their promising left tackle, he's out. He was injured when he got drafted, right? And then he came in. He took some lumps, right? But he's the guy that they're, he took some lumps for sure. He's also flashed that, this is the guy that the talent was visible, right? We've seen there where he's back out. He's on IR now. I think his season's going to be done. And so that line, and then already with Jawan Taylor on the right tackle side, which is always going to be up and down. And so now you've got probably the best pass rushing duo in football in Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. Yeah, man. As a duo, I think they're the best. I'll take them over Michael Parsons and Rashawn Gary. I'll take them over Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper in Denver. I'll take them over Myles Garrett and whoever, because Myles Garrett is having that type of year where it doesn't matter who's across from him. We got to mention. So Myles Garrett and X, I'll take them over that. Yeah, I'm thinking on the spot, I think this Texans has the best pass rushing duo for sure on the edge. Yeah, I think for sure. And so this is a terrible matchup in that way. And then also the secondary. They've got an elite secondary as well. They've got Derek Stingley Jr., who is a top 2, 3, 4, top 10, probably top 2, 3, 2, 3 corner in football. Unless he's trying to defend Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's damn there. He's locked down. And so I don't imagine him having any trouble with anybody individually on Kansas City's receiving core. Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, right? I'll take Derek Stingley on Rashee Rice. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not as high on Rashee Rice as others, but I'll take Derek Stingley in that matchup. And then those other pieces, Kamari is it Kamari Lassiter? The corner from Georgia on the other side. He's the the kind of a physical enforcer at corner, but he also gets his hands on some turnovers as well. I think he's got 2 picks this year. I really like Kalen Bullock, the rail thin safety man out of USC, but he's a flat out ball hawk, and he's one of those guys where, man, he looks like he's 180 pounds soaking wet, but he's a missile, man. He flies in and he throws his body. And then they've got a lot of pieces in that secondary to help really partner and play well with the rush they're getting up front from Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. So I really like this matchup for Kansas City. For Houston, defensively. But see, offensively is where I get the worry. That Houston Texans offensive line is atrocious. Moms try to shout out Chris Jones today. Chris Jones could and should have a bounce back style of performance today because he's going up against a soft offensive line in Houston. And so if Chris Jones has left a lot to be wanting, he's underperformed, or maybe he's finally kind of lost a step, right, as he enters his age 31 or 32-year-old season. You know what I mean? So it's time, right? He's finally crested that hill. And so now he's coming back down, but he's still got good ball in him. This could be a game in which he's able to impose his will and maybe have a resurgent performance for sure. And then also, man, just the other inconsistencies as well with C.J. Stroud. Now, C.J. Stroud being back in that lineup, but it hasn't been pretty for the bulk of this season when he was there. They actually had a bright spot and a spark for a game or two in the offense when Davis Mills took over. Before Davis Mills, the cream rises to the top and everything else settles back down. Davis Mills settled back into who and what he is. And so we get C.J. Stroud, who didn't have a particularly great game last week against the Colts, but ergo again, that defense is so tough and so stout that's still a game they win against a quality opponent. And beat the Colts outright in Indianapolis, and Indianapolis took Kansas City to overtime just last week in Kansas City. And Kansas City had to kind of scrape by to get that done. So this Houston team, man, am I going to take Houston? Am I taking, because essentially for me, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes at home in Kansas City on Sunday night. Yeah, that's enough. That's enough. Hey, matter of fact, cutting Dave Leaves in the building, man. Hey, man, said, you know what I'm saying? We was talking about the NFL pushing the button. Button's getting pushed tonight. Sunday night football. The Chiefs and Cowboys just had the single most watched football game in the history of the league. 57-point-something million people on Thanksgiving. Yeah, the NFL's not letting Kansas City miss the playoffs. We talked about it. We've talked about it for about 3 weeks now. I think 2-3 weeks ago, I started talking on the show how Kansas City's in the playoffs. Kansas City's playoffs started 3 weeks ago. And then that's the game they end up losing to Who they lose to before? Goodness gracious. Oh, they lost to the Cowboys Thanksgiving, but I was thinking even before then, they were in playoff mode in my mind. I think they've been in playoff mode for, I want to say closer, maybe even 3 weeks. So, and it's still been a little dicey. I think they scraped by to get to overtime and win that game against the Colts. They did, of course, they lose to the Cowboys. And so this one's a big one. Like I said, if they had one game to lose, I think they already lost it. If they had wiggle room for maybe losing one more, that game is lost. Kansas City realistically has to win out. They're behind Buffalo in the head-to-head. They're behind Jacksonville in the head-to-head. They're now they did beat the Colts, which is going to prove massive for sure. Assuming if the Colts getting into that, if the Colts end up falling into that wild card scenario, then that head-to-head proves vital. My dog Chad said they lost to the Lions as well, he believes. I think you're right. But they lost to somebody else in the AFC that's ahead of them in the wild card race. Bills, Jaguars, and I thought there was one more in the AFC that's ahead of them and that'll have the tiebreaker over them in the wild card race. And so, anywho, the point being, all these games are critical. They can't drop, and they definitely can't drop a game to another AFC opponent and an AFC opponent that's also in the same wild card race potentially as yourselves. And so this is a critical one for me. I think the matchup tells me Houston. I think that defense overwhelmingly is strong enough to really go out there and make this. I mean, they can really, if they get home and beat up on Patty, man, and the rest of that defense as well. I like the thought of Derek Stingley on Rashee Rice, right? And I like the rest of those guys, Kalen Bullock. And I keep calling him Kamari Lassiter, but I'm not sure if it's supposed to be Kamari. I'm going to call him Kamari until I hear otherwise. Kalen Bullock, Kamari Lassiter. Man, they still – no, I think they let go of Jalen Petrie. Who else is in that damn secondary that I can't think of right now? But they've got a lot of pieces there, man, that I really enjoy as far as that defense goes. But I'm taking – Sunday night, primetime in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and the NFL's button. It's going to be too much. Give me Kansas City to hold on and find a way to win this game 21-17. 21-17. And let's see. And then, here we go. Last but not least, Monday Night Football, man. Philadelphia on the road at the Chargers. Give me Philly 27-23. I kind of touched on this one a little earlier, just by happenstance, as we were talking about just the struggles, or we were talking about the Cowboys and their viability in that NFC East. But I do have the Eagles going on the road to LA because in winning the Chargers. I'm still gonna take the Eagles. There's a lot of issues with the Eagles. Like I said, we beat that Eagles horse to death. We brought it back. We killed it again. All right, so we already know what's going on with the Eagles. We know my thoughts. I know a lot of y'all thoughts as well, but I am still taking them over Justin Herbert, who is a hair above the trust factor of Trevor Lawrence in my book, but I'll still take them on the road to get this done. There are no road games playing the Chargers. That's for one, right? It's either home field because your fans travel, or it's neutral, but it's not a home field advantage for the Chargers. Nobody wanted them there. Okay, and so that also makes it a much more pliant Monday night matchup, all the way going from the East Coast to the West Coast. I think the fact that it is the Chargers tempers a lot of the complications that can happen there. But then also the Eagles got their own problems. They're clearly the more talented team, I think, from top to bottom. But they've got their own problems and issues. I just don't trust Justin Herbert. My dog Chop, matter of fact, my dog Chop's boy, Justin Herbert. I don't trust Justin Herbert to come through and win a game against a quality opponent in which he'll have to be the guy to step up and get it done. I can't trust him in that way. So unless the Eagles just implode or self-destruct, I still take the troubled Eagles to get this done on the road. I'm going 27-23. Man, did we make it? I think we made it. I'm double checking to make sure I didn't miss one. But no, I don't think I did, man. I don't think I did. Oh, I missed your comment, though. My bad. My dog Chad said, big game. He's going Chiefs. The Texans' offense won't be strong enough. And see, that's where I go as well. The Texans' offense is garbaggio. It really is. But they do have some pieces there. Like, let's say if it's like Nico could make a play, because Nico's one of those guys where I like him best intermediate, right? I like him best on like deep over routes where he can get his speed and momentum up. I think he's a bit of a strider, but once he gets his momentum up, he's a terror in the open field. He's big and strong enough he can break a tackle, especially from a DB. And then, like I said, man, once he gets up to gear, he can stride and he can move a little bit. I really like Jaden Higgins, the rookie receiver out of Iowa State. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I had Jaden Higgins over Ted McMillan. I did coming into the draft. I just didn't flat out just didn't love Ted McMillan's film, bro. I just didn't. He's proved me wrong, at least to this point in the rookie season. He's playing fantastic. I held Jaden Higgins in esteem that I had him over Ted McMillan. So you know how I feel there. He's a big body guy. I think he's got a lot more wiggle and route running than you typically see from guys that size. He's 6'4". You know what I mean? So I like some pieces there. Christian Kirk is still out there wiggling around a little bit. Jalen and Will every now and again, maybe he gets a spark on a return or a gadget play where they just get the ball in his hands. Maybe he can break one. So they've got some pieces there. They've got some pieces there. Spags in that Chiefs defense, they've been gouged. You know what I mean? They've been gouged a couple times this year. It feels like for the first time that we haven't seen, for the first time in a few years, we hadn't seen that. But yeah, I just can't trust that Texans offense. And then also, man, this is still Sunday night in Kansas City. Patty and Andy, their playoff hopes are on the line. The Chiefs are just coming off of a game in which they set the record for the most viewed game in the history of the league. I don't think Goodell and the NFL machine is going to let them fall through the cracks. They're not going to miss out on that playoff revenue from the Chiefs if they can help it. If they can help it, I just don't imagine the league wants anything. I'm telling you, they don't. They're not going to let that happen if there's any way to prevent it from doing so. And so, yeah, I'll take Kansas City for sure. But that's going to be a good-ass game. That's definitely going to be a good-ass game, man. And then, you know what, man? Since we got a little extra time, let me see. They got the pieces, but the O-line makes it hard for CJ to get them to rock. And that's true as well. And that's one of the things that was, I think, when Davis Mills first took over from CJ, the first two games, I think he looked best. And I think my dog Tom, we talked about it. The biggest thing he did was just getting the ball out of his hands. Like, CJ knows that offensive line is garbaggio, but he's still holding on to the ball. You know what I mean? He's still holding on to the ball. You still want to be aggressive, take those shots. That's not viable. And we saw how ugly and how bad the ball looked in doing that. With Davis Mills, when he got there, he realized that I've got 2 seconds to get the ball out of my hands. And that's exactly what he did. And we saw there be some early returns in that offense when that was being done. And so now CJ Stroud, I mean, is he able to maybe speed up his own clock, not be as aggressive? Because I think Nico Collins is a guy that has to, he's a guy that generally, he's best in those, he's best in deep overs, things where he can really stride out, get his speed up, get his momentum going, and really turn into a runaway train almost, right? Where he's a guy, because Nico Collins was 6'3", 220. You know what I mean? He's a big dude. You know what I mean? And so he is a strider. Once he gets his speed and momentum up, then yeah, he's a terror in the open field, but he does his best damage on those type of longer passing concepts, right? Those longer intermediate kind of longer playing out routes that really make him viable. And so CJ trying to hit him on those style routes, well, you don't have the time to wait that long. And so you can be too aggressive to the detriment. And that's a lot of what we've seen. So yeah, I'm with you. They definitely miss Mixon, but then at the same time, what is terrible as that offensive line is, because even watching that offensive line now, they've got Woody Marks and Nick Chubb, you know what I mean, there, and neither of those guys is doing anything of note in the run game. But also, I don't see that running game in Houston now and think that there's holes that those guys are missing that Mixon would hit to be more viable, right? I just don't think that offensive line is just worth a damn, for lack of a better word. Now, Mixon is viable in the passing game, I think, definitely than what we've seen from Nick Chubb to this point in his career. And then also, he's been viable. For whatever reason, there was talk that he fell out of favor in Cincinnati in his pass pro, and then maybe hands got inconsistent. But by and large, Joe Mixon's been a pretty reliable pass catching back as well. I do think that he would be an improvement, but I don't know how much of an improvement he'd be because that offensive line is just not playing well. Just flat out just not playing well. And then also, man, I don't know what's going on for him. They went ahead and ended his season like he's not coming back, but he's on the non-football injury list. And I know I believe he had issues before where maybe he had stepped away from the game or he had like documented mental health or stepping away from the game for mental issues. I believe he had that style of I don't want to call them issues, you know what I mean? For lack of a better word, that style of issue before. And so now his season's over. I know he was injured, but when they ended his season, it was on NFI, the non-football injury style list. And I think it had to do with mental health and that sort of thing. So I'm not sure what's going on there with him for sure. But whatever it is, big dog, hey man, prayers for you. You know what I'm saying? Well wishes your way. I hope you, and especially, and I'm not going to get too sad for it. I'm not going to get too heavy on this, but those sort of things are even more so in the forefront because this year particularly, we've seen guys take their lives struggling with mental health, right? We've seen Marshawn Kneeland, man, just about a month ago, you know what I mean? Take his own life. The not even a week after he scored a touchdown on Monday Night Football, his second year in the league out of Western Michigan. You know what I mean? He took his own life that same week. Within that same week. You know what I'm saying? Kyren Lacy, everything he was dealing with, set up and framed by a corrupt police officer in the greater Baton Rouge or wherever that was, right? And so him succumbing to that pressure, that stress, that anxiety, taking his own life as well. And so Joe Mixon, bro, if you are going through something like that and you had to step away, man, step away, do what you got to do, get yourself together, bro. Step away, do what you got to do, get yourself together. And, the last thing we want to see is more news of, somebody losing their life in that way, for sure. But now, man, what I was gonna say is play. Now we don't do a lot of college football talk on here. We generally don't. A lot of times there's just not a lot of time to. But every now and again we dabble. Last night particularly, we had number 1 versus number 2 matchup in the country. Number 1 Ohio State in the Big Ten championship against number 2 the Indiana Hoosiers. The Indiana Hoosiers are the number 2 team in the country, and they were in the Big Ten championship last night against undefeated defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes, and they got it done. Now, they end up winning that game 13-10, number 1 versus number 2, so they're the number 1 team in the country now. As we go into the college playoff system, great defensive game back and forth. Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback for Indiana, he's a guy, he's likely going to be the top quarterback prospect in this year's upcoming draft. And also, this was a very talented class, but a lot of the talent in this class didn't really come to fruition. And so a lot of the big name guys are also going back, there's rumors that a lot of these heavier big name prospects, your Lenore Sellers, your Dante Moore, who had a breakout year in Oregon this year, right? Your Arch Manning didn't hit the ground running like people anticipated. And there was already talk that he was going to be a 4-year guy anyway, but there was a thought that he came out and set the world on fire like people anticipated, that, maybe it'd be too enticing for him not to go ahead and come out. Well, he's going back. And, oh, man, we're missing guys. There's tons of guys. Gus Nussmeier in LSU, his stock kind of crumbled. Klubnik in Clemson, his stock tumbled, right? Old boy in Oklahoma, he's got that undersized Manziel, Baker Mayfield thing going, but not as talented athletically or otherwise as either of those 2 guys. So he's not necessarily as viable. And so a quarterback class that had a lot of big names and potential is kind of mellowed out. A lot of those guys are going back to improve their stock, and they're probably coming out next year. But Mendoza, for all intents and purposes, is probably definitely going to be the cleanest of these prospects. Oh, Ty Simpson from Alabama, who started out red hot in his breakout season, right? Being a 4-year guy, a first-year starter. But over the last, 2 months of the season, he hasn't looked to be the same player. And I want to say he's soft regressed a little bit over the last, month and a half or so. And so Fernando Mendoza, by and large, man, he's probably going to be the cleanest quarterback prospect. I think his game, and I can't wait to really get in the draft season. You know what I mean? My dog Chop know how we used to do. I can't wait to get in the draft season and really kind of break him down and really take a hard look at him myself to see what I think about him. But he's got a real like Kirk Cousins type of vibe. Like if you hear him talk, he's got that golly gee, oh gosh type of, you know what I'm saying, personality. It reminiscent of like a Kirk Cousins, you know what I mean? But not to say that doesn't mean he can't be a killer. Not to mean that doesn't mean that he can't be successful, he can't be viable, right? We've seen Kirk Cousins for a stretch of like 6 years be as productive a quarterback as anybody across the league for about, like I said, for like a good 6-year stretch. So much so that he went to Atlanta at age 36 coming off an Achilles and got $100 million. So Fernando Mendoza, there's a lane for you, my boy. You know what I mean? It can be done. So, you know, it's likely that Cleveland or the Jets may end up being his home. But no, man, they get that done. They upset the defending national champion, number one team in the country, Ohio State Buckeyes. There was a questionable call in this one, man. We got a DPI, defensive pass interference, against Ohio State on a shot play Mendoza took into double coverage, and it was still a good ball. The ball still almost got through, and it could have been perhaps a fantastic catch. But double coverage, the inside defender who's running with, I think it was Eric Surratt, the top receiver for Indiana. And Chop, if you're still in here, bro, I don't think you follow college football as much. So he's running with them. He does put his hand on Surratt's chest, right? His hand does rest on his chest. And I'm talking about for maybe a second, but he doesn't tug. We don't see a jersey tug. I don't even think he made a fist. I don't even think he clenched his hand. His hand did rest on his chest. He didn't turn him, didn't push him. He didn't do any of that. He put his hand on his chest as they're running, and then he got his hand out, and he might have clipped the ball, but the ball is still, I didn't like the call. I didn't like the call of DPI. I was actually at a bar with my partner, matter of fact, my dog Reggie and Brandon, man. We went out and caught the games and the fights last night. I didn't like the call. I didn't like it, but it'd be massive, especially in that game, in which is a 3-point game, 10-13. And then that, of course, and I think that gave them the first down. Well, I know it gave them the first down, but I think that was a third down shot play that they took. And so Ohio State's going to get the ball back more than likely, if not for that call. But that's still not the call that didn't necessarily cost them the game. It was a costly penalty for sure in that moment. But I think Indiana finished that drive with a touchdown, because the only touchdown, or with a field goal. I think that's when they went up 13-10, because the touchdown they had got earlier to Eric Surratt in the left end zone anyway. Now, this game, the thing that lost Ohio State this game, essentially, they missed a chip shot field goal, man. They get all the way down. They have an explosive play. They get down to like the 5-yard line or so. Maybe inside the 10. Maybe not the 5. Maybe somewhere between the 5 and the 8-yard line. I believe they were inside the 10. And so they stalled. They end up going for the tying field goal, right? Because I think it's 4th and goal from like the 6, I want to say. And they missed a 17-yard field goal. I believe it was a 17-yard field goal. The field goal was shorter than 20 yards. And he just pulled it. It was on the right hash, and I think he kicked it outside the left upright. He just snatched it. He just choked it. And at Ohio State, I'm not gonna lie, he probably got his ass beat in the locker room. Matter of fact, we need to check on that kid. Make sure ain't none of them boosters in Ohio State put a hit on him, man. We might need to check on that kid. But they missed that field goal, which essentially would have made the game 13-13. I think there was like a minute and a half left in that game. And so maybe that game goes to overtime. And then in overtime, especially in college, the way I hate college overtime, but especially in college, the way they do it, it's anybody's ball game, right? But Indianapolis, man, they hold on. They get that win. Shout out to Kurt Signetti. Last year, building on last year's success, he got there, and in 2 years, and I didn't know this. I saw these stats. These stats have came out since that victory, but Indiana had the worst football win-loss percentage, like in all of college, in all of sports. Like of all universities, they had the worst win percentage. And I don't know how far back that stat goes. I don't know if this is like the last 30 years or the last 80 years or whatnot, but they had the worst individual win percentage record of anybody. I guess I'm just going to say maybe across like FBS, like major D1 football. I don't know how deep that stat goes. But to see what Kurt Cignetti has done in a year and a half. It's not, or maybe it's almost two. It's essentially 2 full years now. In his second year, number 2 team beat the undefeated national defending champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Buckeyes got a soft NFL schedule. They got a soft NFL roster right now. Jeremiah Smith is going to be a top 3 pick in the league next year. In a quarterback heavy draft, he's going top 5 for sure. He's going to be a top 5. He's been compared to Julio Jones since he stepped on campus. And he's living up to that name for sure. Carnell Tate's going to be a lottery pick in this year's draft. He's going top 15. The other receiver, right? And we already know Ohio State's wide receiver they keep doing it. Oh, Carnell Tate's coming out. He's going to be a top 15. They've got the number 1 defensive player in the country, Arvell Reese. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the draft coming up. The other linebacker there, Sonny Styles, converted safety. He's going to be a first-round pick, right? So they've got 2 first-round picks on offense, 2 first-round picks at on offense and defense, right? And those caliber of guys, and then that's also additional talent. Those are just the headline guys. Julian Sand is in the Heisman consideration. He's only a true sophomore, or no, maybe he's a redshirt sophomore. I think he redshirted his first year at Alabama before he transferred to Ohio State. So he's a redshirt freshman or sophomore. But either way, he's just not eligible. But he is a Heisman candidate. So this team and this roster is loaded. That's the team that Indiana, of all teams, beat. Defending national champions, undefeated champions. Indiana won its first Big Ten championship in 80 years. I think that was another stat. It's their first Big Ten championship that they've won in 80 years, if not ever. I don't know. It's 80 years. College football goes back 300 years or however long. So maybe they won one in the 1800s sometime. Their first one in 80 years, right? And they did it, and I'm going to say it again because we got to make sure we give the context. They did it again against the undefeated defending national champions, Ohio State Buccaneers, who have a soft NFL roster right now. You know what I mean? So that's a massive win. I cheer for the Buckeyes. You know what I'm saying? If y'all don't know, if y'all forgot, I'm a natural born Buckeye. You know what I mean? I was born in Ohio, so Ohio State. You know what I'm saying? That's I cheer for them for sure. So I did want to see them win, but I can understand and respect and appreciate, Indiana, their story. Y'all know I love a good underdog story anyway, and so I'm happy for them. Now, when we get into the playoffs, I still expect Ohio State to go out there and do what we got to do and bring home this back-to-back championship. But kudos and congratulations to Indiana for sure. And like I said, man, I can't wait to really dive into Fernando Mendoza's draft tape for sure. My dog Chad said Tate's gonna be the truth, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, Tate nice, bro. Yeah, Tate gonna be one-on-ones too, bro. And that's crazy, bro. How they just turning them boys in and out. Said they are always soft on receiver. It might be an old comment. Texans Chiefs game, but no, Tate's gonna be nice for sure. I definitely think he is as well. And now here's the thing as well for Ohio State. They're the receivers coach. Like Brian Hartline had been the receivers coach for the Buckeyes, and he's the guy that really started churning out these receivers that we've seen over these last, let's say, like 10 years or 8 years or so. He was a wide receivers coach. We saw what he did with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate this year, Terry McLaurin, right? Dog, we missing people. Carnell Tate this year. Dog, we missing guys, bro. There's like 3 more real names that we missing right now. Who else we miss? Bro, he had J-Mo. He had Jameson Williams in that building. He just couldn't get J-Mo on the field. Like they had Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and Jackson Smith and Jigba in the same offense. J-Mo was the 4th receiver. That's why J-Mo had to go to Alabama, become an All-American, and then get drafted in the top 12. You know what I mean? So he came from Brian Hartline, J-Mo. And we're still missing, like, there's still 1 or 2 real names that I'm missing, dog. So Brian Hartline is, man, where there's smoke, there's fire. So he's the guy, the receivers coach, and then he got promoted to offensive coordinator. But now he just took his first head coaching opportunity. He's leaving to be the head coach at University of South Florida. And so I am curious to see how that receiving factory at Ohio State, like how that looks going forward now that Brad Hartline is leaving to go to South Florida. And then also this year's number one receiver, Chris Henry Jr. Y'all may remember Chris Henry, his dad, Chris Henry Sr., was a receiver with the Bengals and played with Ocho Cinco. So when it was Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco in those heydays with Carson Palmer, TJ Who's Your Mama, I'm not even going to try to say his name, TJ Who's Your Mama, and then Chris Henry. That was their three-headed kind of monster. Chris Henry died tragically. I want to say he fell off the back of a flatbed truck and succumbed to a head injury, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But he passed away, and so his son is the number one receiver in college football right now. And I think his son was adopted and essentially raised by Pac-Man Jones, who was also on those same Bengals team and was very close to Chris Henry, of course. And so, yeah, he's the number one receiver in the country. He's been committed to Ohio State to go play with Brian Hartline in that receiver factory. Well, now it came out earlier this week that he said he was going to still commit there, even though Brian Hartline's leave didn't. It came out that he hasn't signed or turned in his commitment letter. And so he's taking another look now that Brian Hartline's leaving. Oregon's back in the mix. Now, Oregon had last year's number one receiver, DeCorian Moore from Texas, from Duncanville. So he's out there. Chris Henry Jr. is now now there's talks that maybe he's letting Oregon back in the mix, especially if Dante Moore goes back, him and DeCorian Moore. I mean, it's a real thing. It's a possibility. Now, I think he still will end up in Ohio State. He's his dad played for the Bengals. So more or less, I think his childhood was in Ohio. That's the hometown team. And they're still the defending national champs. They still got that program in place. I think he still ends up there. But the fact that he slowed down his commitment when the news of Brian Hartline leaving broke, it's still worth mentioning. And so I did want to bring that up. But no, man, this college playoff is gonna be fantastic. It's gonna be fantastic. I want to see who gets in. There's some questionable bubble style teams. Alabama, do they deserve to get in? BYU, do they make it? Miami, do they deserve to get in? There's a team like James Madison. Do they get in? So there's a lot of interesting things going on, man, coming up for this college football playoff in this bowl season. And then, of course, that leads into draft season. I can't wait for that. But, I mean, that's what I'm trying to think, man. Other than that, that might be that's it. That's all, man. Unless y'all got something to talk about. If you got something to talk about, better drop it now and forever hold your peace. Drop it now and hold your peace, man. But I'll go ahead and wrap us up. We got about 20 minutes to kick off, so we made good time, man. Matter of fact, and I'm going to do it myself because I'll be forgetting. We got 20 minutes to kickoff. That means get your fantasy lineups together. That's what that means, man. You got a little time, get your fantasy lineups together. And then, yeah, man, we'll go ahead and wind it on down as we get ready for a fun-filled day of football. Man, y'all see that alliteration? A fun-filled day of football. Come on, man. It's football Sunday. It's a holiday every week. Let's go. So, before we get out of here, we will do that real member roll call, man. Y'all know what's going on. Shout out to the members in the building, man. First one in the door today, my dudes. Have a blessed show as always. I appreciate that. My dog Tom came by, holding it down, making sure y'all know that them terrible Texans are still going to the Super Bowl. I appreciate your homeboy. Uncle's in the building as well. Hey, he said that button getting pushed today in Kansas City. I appreciate you as always stopping through. I appreciate you. Let's see. Sister's in the building as well. Hey, reminding me to get them comments up for show. And then, of course, man, my dog, I know, man, I definitely know you was in there. Oh, I missed it. Shout out to my dog, Chop Man, in the building. What is special? And you know what? I'm glad you brought it up. Because I after me and you talked about it, and I really sat back there and had to think about it, and I think I texted you this morning because it was on my mind. I've been thinking about it since we talked about it, dog. And I really had to sit back and you know what? Now, like, and kind of like I said when I texted you. Because the two names that we talked about last time when we were talking, or the other night, Jerry Rice and Justin Jefferson. Jerry Rice is the GOAT in my book. Jerry Rice is the GOAT in my book. I don't want to hear it. I'm going Jerry Rice. And then Justin Jefferson is my favorite receiver in football right now. And I think he's a guy, hopefully, man, Minnesota got to do something so they don't ruin that boy's career or turn off his career from the trajectory that he was on, right? But are they special in the context that me and my dog Chop was talking about? And I changed it because at first when he asked me because of my neck, I was like, man, hell yeah, man, they got to be. My favorite receiver and the all-time GOAT. They got to be. But no, they're not. Because, and this is what I think texting my dog Chop this morning, is like when I really sit and think about it, because special isn't indicative of production. And the example that me and my dog Chop talked about, and I wish I had thought about this earlier. We could have really gotten to it, Chop. We really could have got into it, but it was a long-winded conversation we had talking about George Pickens, and that tied into Randy Moss and guys of that ilk, and where we talk about consider special. So for me, I'm gonna say special. Like special is God-given. We can't explain it. He showed up and he had it. Randy Moss showed up at Marshall and was special before he got to the NFL. We knew it. You know what I mean? Like, and so guys like that are special. Tyreek Hill is special. George Pickens, I think, is special. He's just got a natural ability. So not to say that special, because special doesn't always trump, because special doesn't trump consistency, dedication, hard work. Like you can outwork special. We see special get outworked all the time, but everybody that works hard and becomes consistent, develops or fine-tune ability to become like a stud. You can turn yourself into a stud. Jerry Rice turned himself into the GOAT through hard work. You know what I mean? But Jerry Rice ain't Randy Moss. Randy Moss is special. You see what I'm saying? But there's a couple different ways to skin that cat. But so when I had to go back and reevaluate it, I was like, yeah, no, from the parameters that I was, me and you were talking about, and I know the rest of y'all that's in here, man, y'all don't have the backstory, and we short on time, man, so I can't get too much into it. But from the context that me and Chop were talking about last night, yeah, nah, they not. I think special is like if you can work hard to attain it, it's not special. You know what I mean? If you can work hard to obtain it, then that wasn't special. It means it's attainable for anybody who works hard. So that doesn't make it special, but it doesn't diminish being great. Like Jerry Rice working hard because he wasn't special. That's what makes it such an intriguing or special story, or makes him such an intriguing player. Justin Jefferson doesn't have the ability of Jamar Chase, but he can outwork Jamar Chase. He can. There's things that he can do to be just as good or better than Jamar Chase, but it doesn't change the fact that Jamar Chase is special. You know what I mean? Jamar Chase is special. He's a special athlete. He's got natural God-given abilities that Justin Jefferson just can never get. Jerry Rice is the GOAT. There's no amount of things that he could have done to be Randy Moss. You see what I'm saying? Because that's special. So that's that for me. You know what I mean? You can't get special. Special is what it is. You know what I mean? You got it or you don't. You're special. But that doesn't mean that you can't be great. You can't be a Hall of Famer. You can't be tier 1. You can't be at the top of the league. Because Justin Jefferson is all those things I just said. Jerry Rice was all those things that I just said. Antonio was all those things that I just said. Antonio Brown wasn't Julio Jones. Julio Jones was special. Antonio Brown wasn't Julio. He wasn't special, but he was better. He was better in every metric. Right? Or at least in their heyday. Now, you know, we know how it ended, but at their best, at their peak, I'm taking Antonio Brown. You see what I'm saying? And I'm taking Antonio Brown over all those guys in his prime, because in his prime, there was Julio Jones. He was better. In his prime, there was Calvin Johnson. He was better. Now, he's not special. Calvin Johnson is special. Julio Jones is special. Antonio Brown but he was the best of the bunch. That's how I feel about Jerry Rice and Justin Jefferson. They're not special, but like I said, you can outwork special. We see it. You can outwork special. You can develop special. You can outdevelop special. You can outperform special. Special may not land. You know what I'm saying? Special is the takeoff. You don't always land that ship. That plane doesn't always land. But it doesn't change the fact of what was special and what wasn't. You see what I'm saying? Let me see, my dog say you can't dismiss the mental abilities that are special. No, man. Studying isn't special, Chop. Studying isn't special. If you study hard and get an A, that's fantastic, but it's not special. You know what special is? A child prodigy. Study to play piano. You can study and play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and you may be one of 1,000 people in the world that can play the Fifth, Seventh Symphony or whatever it is, right? But there's a 5-year-old little boy who's a prodigy. He can play it as well. He can hear it and play it. That's special. If I go through 20 years of recitals and training to be able to play a flawless rendition of Mozart, like I'm super talented, I'm super skilled, I'm elite. I'm not a 7-year-old boy in the back of Bulgaria who can hear that music and pick up a violin and hit it note for note. That's special. If I study hard for a test, that's not special. I studied hard, I put the work in, and I got an A. I studied hard, I put the work in, I got a 4.0, I got an A. What about Stephen Hawking, who was a genius by age 9? Albert Einstein, who failed. Albert Einstein, mental abilities, right? Albert Einstein was the worst student in his class. He dropped out, or he was one of the worst students in his class. So the other students who studied hard and got A's while he failed and he failed out of high school, and forgive me if I'm talking fast, I might be talking too fast and crossing things up, but I'm making the bigger point of putting in the work and getting a fantastic result. That's commendable, but it does special. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't make it special. If you put in the work, then yeah, you should reap the reward. If you have, because you still do have to have some style of baseline style of ability. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying anybody can just show up and work out. So you do have to have some style of baseline viability as an athlete itself to even give yourself a chance. But that itself, you've got to maximize. You've got to max out. Guys are able to max out. I can study hard to get an A. I'm not a genius. I might get the same A. Me and a 7-year-old boy might get the same 100% on a final. But he's special when he got his A. I worked hard and bust ass to get that A. I'm not special. I just got the A. I worked hard and I got it. And you know, I thought about what you said. Because we talked about Jerry Rice. Well, what made him special? And I was like, man, he had fantastic conditioning, route running, No, those are technical proficiencies that he worked hard to attain. Randy Moss showed up a unicorn out the box. He was a unicorn out the box before we seen him do anything. He was special. You know what I mean? That's what's special. He said, mental ability is special and play a huge part in the game. It's not all about speed, size, and strength. God gives certain people the ability to process differently. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, because by your definition, anybody can be special if I study hard enough or if I work hard enough. That's not special. If you work hard enough and you can get there, that doesn't make it special. You worked hard and you got it. You put in the work and you reap the reward. You know what I mean? But that's not special. Special is unique. It's not unique to work hard towards something and then break through and get it. That's not unique. That's a grind. That's grind. He grinded. Jerry Rice grinded. Justin Jefferson's grinded. You know what I mean? It's not special. Special is unique, bro. Special is, so if you can go purchase it, if you can go train and obtain it, then that's not special. Special is unique. It is what it is because you have to have it or you don't. That's what makes it special. Some guys have it. Randy Moss was special. Tyreek Hill is special. He just has it. You know what I mean? Chris Johnson, special. Because we've seen and it's not just having the ability, we've seen other fast receivers, right? Tyreek Hill's not an Olympian. What was the best receiver that played in San Francisco all those years? And I think he's a silver medalist. What's that guy's name, man? Not Brandon Cooks. I can't think of his name, dog. He's the same size as Tyreek Hill, and technically he may be faster because he was an Olympic alternate. He played with San Francisco all those years, man. I can't think of his name. I remember a game in which he scored a touchdown after his infant daughter, had passed away, and he scored a touchdown that next game, and I remember it was an emotional moment. I'm blanking on his name. But what I'm saying is, because just like you said, it's like you can definitely have the natural ability and still not be special, because every fast player, every tall, fast guy isn't Randy Moss, right? You know what I mean? Martavis Bryant wasn't Randy Moss. The guy I'm thinking about in San Francisco, he's not Tyreek Hill. They got the same measurables. You know what I mean? But they not special. He said there's a reason every person can't break down the most enormous that the kid guy could do in 3 seconds. He's special too. But no, that's what I'm saying. If there's a 6-year-old boy doing advanced calculus, he's special. Now, he's not the only one that could do advanced calculus, because there's professors, there's other college-age students, there's other people that can work and study, and they can accrue and build knowledge to work that same problem and solve that same math problem, right? Like you just said. But the 6-year-old boy who can just see it and do it, he's special. He's not the only one that can do it, but him doing it is special versus the other guys who spend 30 years studying math to be able to do that same problem. So when Justin Jefferson and Jerry Rice spend a lifetime to be able to compete and perform at the level or in the same way or token that a Randy Moss or Tyreek Hill can perform, it's not to discount their accomplishment or their ability. Jerry's the GOAT. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in football in my mind. They're not. Jerry wasn't more special than Randy Moss, and Jettis doesn't have the special ability that Jamar Chase has, dog. But it doesn't mean that they're not better than both, because in my mind, I have them better than both those guys. They're contemporaries. You know what I mean? He said the mental part, but hold on, but because this is the thing. Studying plays is an acquired skill. You're still studying it. Because everybody has to learn. There is no inherent play calling ability or like play discernment ability. You know what I mean? So like I'm talking about ability, like Justin Jefferson, guys like Justin Jefferson and Jerry Rice, the mental part that you're talking about. But that doesn't make them special. They're studious. They put in the time. They have to compensate that way because they're not special in the way that Randy Moss is. So yeah, they have to be more technically or mentally proficient to give themselves a chance. Antonio Brown has to be more mentally proficient to give himself a chance to outwork or outperform a Calvin Johnson or a Julio Jones because he doesn't have that natural special ability. So that's what I'm saying. So like being a good student doesn't make you special, dog. It doesn't make you special. Hey, yeah, no, we gonna chop it up for sure. But no, man, that's good. Man, I wish I'd have thought about it earlier, man. We could have really had a lot. We could have really got more into that, dog. But yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you as always, big dog. But hey, y'all know what's going on. It's about that time, man. We about 5 minutes out. And so it's time to get yourselves together. Get yourselves ready. It's Sunday. We got football. We got meaningful football. We got meaningful matchups. We got heavyweight contenders going up against each other. Joe Burrow is going to take on running MVP Josh Allen. The Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback of his era. He's fighting for his playoff life today against the best defense in football in the Houston Texans. We've got tons of good football, tons of good matchups, man. So y'all know what time it is. Sit back. Lock in. Turn your favorite team on your favorite TV. You put your favorite adult beverage in your favorite hand. You sit back, you lock in, you find your favorite spot on your favorite couch. Good luck to you and your team, unless your team is playing my team. Other than that, y'all have fun, be safe, enjoy yourselves. Tap back in with your dog, man. Wednesday, 7 o'clock. What really was right, what really was wrong. We'll recap all today's action. And until then, y'all have fun, y'all be safe. I'll catch y'all later. Wait a minute. Y'all thought we was getting out of here like this? We say the same thing every week with me at home. If I forgot to say your name, hey, damn, my bad. But charge it to my head and don't charge it to my heart. You know I'm still thinking about y'all. I almost missed y'all. You thought I was going to mess up? Nah, I ain't. We still bounce back, man. Wednesday, 7 o'clock, tap in with your dog. We'll have a lot of fun then. Peace.